Can you hear me?
I'm just going to this is Doug McCall, Canadian Association for School Health and the International School Health Network. I think we'll be starting up the session. We're running, it's about just at our start time, so we'll start it up. We are expecting to have a few more people joining us today. We have in this discussion group thus far about, it's actually over 61 people to be exact, who are following these conversations. And as indicated before, we're finding that a lot of people are taking advantage of the recorded sessions and looking at the slides. We do note that a couple of days after each of these sessions that almost 50 or 60 people have visited those pages. So it's one of the benefits of a webinar series with a recording that people are able to take advantage of it when it is convenient in their schedule. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the session which is part of a series of webinars being sponsored by Health Canada as part of the Canadian Drug Strategy, and to welcome our speakers here today, Bill Hansen, Keith Patterson, and Seth Fletcher. Still hoping to hear from Dan Reist for his participation as well. But we'll move forward now on time, or as close to on time as we can do. This series of webinars is aimed at looking at better practices in substance abuse prevention through schools. We have a number of specific topics, instructional programs being one of them, and actually there are going to be 2 sessions on instructional programs in substance abuse prevention, and this is the first, and we're pleased to be joined by some experts from around the world, and also to have a chance to talk about some of the specifics both here in the session as well as online. Those of you in the discussion group know that we're trying to develop a series of Wikipedia-style summaries, and so those are listed on the whiteboard page that you can see now. And so after the session, anytime up to the end of March, we're going to open up to keep that discussion period going. If you want to go in and make a comment about any of those summaries, they're just a paragraph or 2. And what we're trying to do in those summaries and these sessions is to really capture better practices in a very nuts and bolts kind of a way, very specific kind of a way. And so we're very pleased to be looking at instructional programs as our first session on instruction. Other sessions have looked at adapting programs to Aboriginal communities. We have a couple of sessions on parent participation. And so we're looking, and we'll have other kinds of interventions in the area of school-based or school-linked substance abuse prevention. So without, I'm going to take a chance to introduce our 3 speakers this morning and ask them to make their remarks, and then we'll open it up for questions and comments. If you have a question or comment as one of the speakers is making his remarks, just type it into the chat box in the lower left-hand corner, press enter on your keyboard, and it will show up. And then I'll go back and read it out to the group when we're in the discussion period. You also may find that sometimes the internet slows down, and it's the flow of data to your computer from the internet. And don't worry if there's a momentary pause; it will catch up. The voice will flow and catch up, sometimes in a quicker speed, but don't worry about that. And if you, for some reason, get knocked out of the session, just come back in the way you got in originally and sign in again, and you should be able to just join us again. And of course, if there's any it usually takes a second or 2 to get back in. So don't worry if you're knocked out by it's just the flow of data coming to your computer. So it's my pleasure to introduce our 3 panel members today, starting with Dr. Hansen, who is president of Tanglewood Research and has been president of that group in the United States, internationally actually, since 1993. Dr. Hansen has served on the faculty at UCLA, the University of Southern California, and the Bowman Gray School of Medicine. He's widely recognized as an expert in alcohol and drug prevention throughout the world. He's written numerous curricula for school and community-based prevention, including Project SMART, Project STAR, and All Stars. He has authored over 80 articles in scientific journals and the goal of his research has been to identify and evaluate evidence-based approaches to prevention that can achieve reductions in the onset of use and that can be applied in everyday settings. From 1985 through 93, he was the principal investigator of the Adolescent Alcohol Prevention Trial. This project tested norm setting and refusal skills for preventing the onset of alcohol use. And that's the focus for Dr. Hansen's remarks today, is to look at normative education, normative beliefs, which, as all of us know, is one of the key factors, one of the key things to think about in doing instructional programs. Keith Patterson is a consultant with the Department of Education in Manitoba, and Keith is going to be reporting on a pilot project that in 2 phases that examined another big idea, an important idea in drug education, which is life skills training. And Manitoba field tested the life skills program that has been developed by the Botvan Group out of the US, and is going to be looking at how that program evolved and developed and was implemented in Manitoba. Keith Fletcher is from the Council on Drug Abuse, our partner in this series of webinars, and Seth is the program director responsible for introducing and implementing their program in 3 jurisdictions: Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Nunavut. It's been adapted to an Aboriginal context, and Seth will be looking at how we need to convey practical, functional information about drugs in a tone, using a tone that does not try to scare nor to elicit curiosity among kids, but just provides factual information. And that's a third element for effective instructional approaches in drug education. So we're going to have these 3 ideas, and then we'll have a discussion about them. So without further ado, Dr. Hansen, Bill, if you'd like to take over the slides, I'll just move to your first slide, and then please take us from here.
Can you hear me? That's the first question, Doug. Just give me feedback if I'm...
Yes. Okay. Yeah, if you could just speak a little louder, that would be good.
Okay, I will do my best. The microphone's right at my mouth, and I tend to be soft-spoken, so if I ever get too low, just tell me to operate again.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to talk about normative beliefs and normative education, and I want to bring you greetings from North Carolina. We do have some nice northerly... We're bringing Canadian air down to us today at about 20 miles an hour, so we're experiencing a little bit of the hurricane that's off the coast, but really we haven't seen any rain, and this is the windiest I think it's going to become. So my neighbors to the north are going to be suffering, but I'm just fine. Tango Research began as an effort to create a way to market programs to make them more accessible to people in the United States. Unlike many places in the world, the United States operates very much off of a sort of a capitalist model when it comes to drug prevention. And so to accommodate that, we've created All Stars, which is a marketed program, and we've also created Evaluation Lizard, which is a tool for evaluating prevention programs. The benefit of having both of these working together is that over the years, over the last couple of years actually, we've been able to do about 1,400 local evaluations of All Stars. Most of those don't include control groups, but Evaluation Lizard now has all those data in a repository, and we're actually able, we're going to be able shortly to make comparisons among local evaluations to see how they do against each other, which I think will be a real benefit to our field. But I'd really like to talk about normative beliefs and how it works. And one of the things that I'm going to do is just review some stuff. Many of these things you may already know, but it's worth reviewing them. Drug use is a developmental problem. It's very few people are using drugs. These are 6th grade students in North Carolina. This was research that was done during the 1990s, so it's a little bit dated, but the basic pattern that's shown here hasn't changed very much. That is, things increase as kids get older, and some things increase more than others. So alcohol and tobacco tend to be the most widely used substances by the time young people are graduating from high school. Marijuana is following, and marijuana is probably actually increasing some. Smokeless tobacco increases, but it's a lesser used gateway drug. I don't have on this picture inhalants, which tends to peak at 7th and 8th grades and then declines. But you can see that alcohol and tobacco, marijuana, they all increase as young people grow older. And in the United States, we've been tracking the prevalence of these substances for a very long period of time. This is marijuana use measured by the Monitoring the Future project. And you can see that in the early 1990s, marijuana use was very low among all 3 grades that were measured. And then it increased through 1997. It came down a little bit, but since then it's been increasing. And we actually anticipate a continued increase in marijuana use in the United States, simply because there are now 11 states that have legalized marijuana for medical use. But that has an impact on norms and availability and other kinds of things that very clearly influence young people to start using. In fact, you can see this sort of this upturn here in 2008, 2009, 2012 among the 8th graders, and that rapid upturn is expected to continue into the near future because of things. And so prevention is very important for that. I'd like to also just make sure that we all understand my terminology for what prevention is. Case number 1 here, the delayed onset. If you take a look at just the young people who have not used anything, and you say, what can we do? Well, the best thing to do is to keep them not using. And so the real goal of prevention for this group of people is to maintain non-use. Typically what happens is, and this I believe is alcohol use over the period of a year, alcohol use will typically increase as much as 10% during a year among the people who are non-users. Some prevention programs, if any improvement over the red line going up is cause for celebration. So sometimes we're very happy to just see the blue line instead of the red line. But there's another side of prevention. If you take a look at just the young people who use, our goal, of course, is to get them all to quit. And one of the things to remember about primary prevention in elementary and middle schools, and I'm not sure your schools are organized exactly the same way as ours, but 6th and 7th and 8th grades typically, and I'm going to take my talk button off for just a second to cough. Excuse me, now I'm back. Most young people don't use very much. In fact, their use is relatively light. And so if we happen to catch young people who say that they've used in the past 30 days, our goal is to get those kids to entirely quit. So when we've succeeded with those kids, then we see the green line in case 2, where among all those young people who said that they had tried it pre-test, we want none of them to be using it post-test. Of course, case 3 is the combination of both of these things, where at pre-test there's always some level of use among young people. And typically in an evaluation, it's the change in prevalence that is the marker. Of course, we'd love to see prevalence go from whatever it is down to 0, but typically it increases. The red line demonstrates what happens without a program, and the blue line typically what happens with the program. And you can see that the blue line is clearly an improvement, but we still have a long ways to go in terms of actually conquering the problem that we're facing. I'd like to talk about norms as part of a constellation of targeted mediators. And by mediators, what we mean are risk and protective factors that can be influenced by an intervention. And so when we look at sixth graders and we ask them about the beliefs about the consequences that they might experience, we ask them if using a substance would interfere with the lifestyle that they want to live. If we ask them about how committed they are to avoiding drug use, and if we ask them about their normative beliefs, meaning what do you think your friends think of as acceptable and normal, and how many of your friends do you think use, and if we tip all of those things so that the best response we get is a 10, what we find is that young people generally start in a relatively positive place, but these qualities erode over time, and normative beliefs is the one that tends to erode the most. We've standardized these scales so that they all have sort of the same metrics, and they can all be used in the same manner. Let me move on to the next slide. And one of the things we know is that things like normative beliefs are really good predictors of substance use. This is a little chart that I created looking at data that we had collected in the 1990s, but looking at how individual students responded to some questions about normative beliefs. And you can see that at the bottom of the scale is use is acceptable, and at the top of the scale, use is unacceptable. And so what we really want to have are more students who have reported at the top of the scale here. And what we find is if you track this orange line, if somebody's used more than 100 drinks in the past 30 days, they find use is very acceptable. If they've not used at all, or if they've only had a sip to drink, they view use as highly unacceptable. And this is actually not only a correlate that works at any given point in time, it's also very predictive of drug use. And so I believe actually in this one, I used pretest values in the normative beliefs to predict post-test alcohol use. And one last slide about how information that drove the development of what we use actually as an intervention for normative beliefs. If you look at three groups of kids, and I'm focusing mostly on alcohol just because it's easiest to demonstrate that. But if you take a look at the non-drinkers, who are the light blue line, the light drinkers, meaning that they've had fewer than 10 drinks in the past month. Or if you look at heavy drinkers, who are 10 drinks or more in the past month, what you find is they all have different perceptions about the norm. The orange bars are our best estimate of what is actually prevalent in terms of 30-day use among 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th through 12th graders. But if you ask non-drinkers, they're actually pretty close to the actual estimate. They understand what the actual prevalence of drinking is. But if you ask the light drinkers or the heavy drinkers, their estimate of prevalence is way high. And in fact, they have this erroneous perception of the norm, which then becomes the focus of some of our intervention. So let me talk about the adolescent alcohol prevention trial very quickly. This was an intervention that I launched when I was back at the University of Southern California. And we thought we would test two different approaches, well, really three different approaches to drug prevention. Everyone got information about the consequences of drinking alcohol. That was just a standard that we gave to everyone. And then one group of kids, in addition, got some skills for saying no to drinking, a very common approach, resistant skills. it was something that back in the 1980s in the United States was popularized by Nancy Reagan, who had a Just Say No campaign, and a lot of intervention programs use a resistance skills training approach to teach kids how to say no in pressure situations. And then we have our normative education approach, which basically is an attempt to demonstrate to young people that drug use is rare, not common, and that it's unacceptable to their peer group. And we've done this with a number of variety of approaches. One of the things we do is we take a little survey at the beginning of a program, and then we play a game. It's very much like Family Feud, where kids try to guess the answer of their classmates, and we ask a variety of questions in this game about what people think about those who drink, and how many have actually had something to drink, and a variety of things like that. So we play a game. We've also included discussions about things to reveal conventional norms. And then we had a program that combined everything together, just because we needed to have a nice experimental design. And what you can see here, and I think you probably had a few minutes to look at this. Ever been drunk? In 7th grade, very few people had done it in any condition. But by 8th grade, those who had received information only, or those who had received the resistance skills training in combination with the information, had a rather large increase in the prevalence of recent drunkenness, whereas those who had received some form of normative education had really suppressed rates of increase in drunkenness. Problems related to drinking. These were things. Hang on a second, I've got a cough again. You're catching me at just the tail end of a cold. Anyway, we asked questions about: have you been in trouble with school? Have you been in trouble with parents? Have you been in a fight? And then asked the question, were any of these things related to drinking alcohol? That's how we defined problem alcohol use. And what you can see is that the programs that included normative education significantly reduced the onset of problems related to alcohol. In fact, in those kids, among those students who received normative education only, there was practically no increase in related problems, whereas the information and even the resistance skills training group had a large increase in problems related to drinking. The cigarette smoked in the past 30 days, the one that stands out, the one that's not parallel to everything else, is the norm setting. And it had a significant effect on cigarette smoking, and the same sort of pattern for recent marijuana use, or this is ever used marijuana, excuse me, this is lifetime self-reported use. And you can see that normative education was the single program that was the best. Second best program was when it was combined with resistance skills training. But our analysis of the adolescent alcohol prevention trial data suggests that, in fact, it was normative education that seemed to be the active element in all of that. So that's the end of my, I guess I can make a concluding statement that if you really want to target drug use among adolescents, doing something to change their perception of the norm is a critically important component.
Thank you very much, Bill. A great start, and with good hard data, that's very important. Okay, Keith, do you want to take us into your presentation then?
Very good, thank you. Good morning. I'm just going to report on our pilot project that we've done in Manitoba with the Life Skills Training Program. And basically what we've done is we've taken the work from Dr. Gilbert Botvin of Cornell University on his groundbreaking substance abuse prevention program. And then really it really holds the distinction of being the top research-based substance abuse prevention program in the United States. If you look at the LST research that's been done, the little summary, it decreases tobacco, alcohol, marijuana, methamphetamine, polydrug use, and a number of other things. As well as it's been shown to reduce physical aggression, verbal aggression, delinquency, and fighting with students. And basically the research has demonstrated that there is a duration of up to 6 years for the effects, and it's been applied in various populations. And this program itself has a number of different streams to it, where you can have it for elementary students, middle school students, high school students, and the teachers themselves receive teacher manuals, student guides, and DVDs as well. As for the research, it's been backed by a number of organizations that found it to be an effective evidence-based prevention program, and it includes the Department of Education in the U.S., American Medical Association, American Psychological Association, among others. But in general terms, the life skills training program has been used to try to develop healthier communities, bring about real behavior change, promote learning by doing, and foster skill development, because we know that today's youth are surrounded by a variety of decisions that can lead to unhealthy choices related to whether it's physical activity, nutrition, substance use and abuse, and injury prevention, or even mental health and wellness. So the program has been shown to reduce these behaviors on the right, as well as increase social adjustment, self-esteem, academic performance, and pro-social behavior. So the next question is, how do they do this? The program targets social and psychological factors that may cause youth to initiate risky behavior. And healthy behavior and lifestyle choice play a major role in determining youth risks. So the components it looks at are personal self-management, general social, and social resistance skills. Now, the project we did in Manitoba was brought forward as a community initiative to address crime prevention. And who was involved? Well, it developed from having concerned principals and teachers in the province, as well as there was a partnership that developed between Healthy Child Manitoba, Manitoba Justice, and Education. Letters of information were sent to schools in the province, and basically over 30 schools expressed interest in the program, and then the program was piloted with grade 3 students using a randomized controlled trial where half the interested schools implemented the program and the other half did not initially. For phase 1 in the 2009-10 school year, we had 19 teachers, 14 schools implementing LST in grade 3 classrooms, and then 2010-11, the original control schools were given the opportunity to receive LST training. Now the actual schools for 2009 and 10 were these schools and our control schools. The specific life skills training lesson topics are for the level 1 include self-esteem, decision-making, effects of smoking, influences of advertising, managing stress, communication skills and social skills, along with assertiveness. And to help teachers think that this program is not just another add-on to their curriculum, we linked it to the Manitoba Physical Education and Health Education curriculum so that they would know that if they were doing this program, they would be accomplishing outcomes within the regular curriculum. Now our evaluation was a lottery design, and there were 2 stages to the lottery. We had funding for about 30 schools. So the first lottery was to select which schools would be part of the pilot, and the second stage determined which schools would implement LST in 2009-10. and who would act as controls in 2010-11 and would implement the program then. The control schools are very important for our evaluation because it compares information between LST and control schools. So 32 schools in 38 classrooms were given the opportunity to pilot, and we ended up with 14 LST schools and 14 control schools, which made up about 674 students. The evaluation, a questionnaire was administered to students in both LST and control schools before LST was implemented, and again at the end of the school year. Students in LST and control schools participated. Out of the 674, we had 462 that returned both questionnaires, and there were some issues with grade 3 students filling out surveys. Their reading level was a problem. The teacher had to help them quite a bit. So the main research question we were looking at was, did children in LST schools increase their knowledge, attitudes, and behavior more than children in control schools? And our partners at Healthy Child Manitoba looked at to see if there's statistically significant difference between the LST schools and the control schools, and a number of analyses were done. The questionnaire that students filled out had 6 major components, including overall knowledge, smoking knowledge, LST knowledge, smoking attitude, drinking attitude, and LST decisions. And what we found, this graph shows the average scores in the 6 components of the LST questionnaire. In the first component, overall knowledge, students in both LST and control schools had an average score of 0.59. Looking at the last component, LST decisions, LST schools had a lower average of 1.07 compared to 1.12 in control schools. But for the most part, LST and control schools had very similar results for each of the 6 components before LST was implemented. And this graph here adds the scores from the questionnaires that were administered at the end of the school year. The LST and control schools had the same average scores in the first 2 components before LST was administered. And this graph shows that students in the LST classes now have a higher score than the students in the control schools. The gap increased even more in LST decisions, with an average of 1.14 in LST schools and 1.28 in control schools. And this graph shows the percentage increase in average scores from pre-LST to post-LST. Now, our analysis found that LST schools had a statistically significant improvement in overall knowledge and smoking knowledge. Our analysis also found that the increase in LST decisions in control schools was significantly higher than the LST in regular LST trial schools, which was a puzzling find. Overall, though, LST schools had that significant improvement in overall knowledge. And the LST program did not have a beneficial impact on LST decisions. So our evaluation limitations or why LST didn't work well, it could have been due to a number of factors, such as smaller number of students than originally anticipated, the difficulty, again, of grade 3 students filling out a questionnaire. And students from LST schools had more risk factors, and some teachers in the LST schools were not able to complete all the LST program components. So we then relied on what did teachers think of the program. Teachers were given a final survey, an exit form, to find out what they thought of the program and to help assess if improvements could be made for LST in Manitoba. Some of the highlights they mentioned, that the children were very interested, they had lots of discussion, engaging, easy to follow, and had a very good, teacher's guide. some areas that they thought might need to be addressed was the American content. And when you look at the time suggested for each of the lessons, it generally took longer, but that may be due to the fact that they were having these wealth of discussions. And certainly there were some lack of visuals related to cigarettes as well. So for phase 2 now of this program, we solicited interest from the original schools to see if they would like to continue in this study by offering level 2 of life skills training to the students who would now be in grade 5. It would again be in a staggered fashion, trial schools, control schools, and trial school teachers were trained for program delivery in an online webinar format. Our actual intervention schools for last year were these, and for this year we have 4 schools. So what's the difference between level 1 and 2? I have to apologize for this next slide because it's, well, you'll see. Lots of information, but basically have the same topics from level 1 to 2, but just go into more depth in level 2. And there were some of the feedback quotes that we got from teachers include the following: the ease of use, engaging, easy to implement, they felt they were inspired with the program, they enjoyed watching the children grow. And this last quote, I think, sums it up. I thought that teaching LST is like planting seeds. Those skills are basic, yet a vital part of a young person's in young people's minds. So that's just a brief snapshot of what we did.
Thank you very much, Keith, and a good start to our discussion, because I'd like to come back to that the reality check that the project encountered, and that would be a second part of our discussion in the second session. Seth, I'm going to be uploading your slides now. I couldn't do it before, and maybe you could start your remarks, and I'll just make sure we'll load the content as you start speaking. So, Seth, if you could start your presentation, that would be great.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me. If you can't, just send me a chat or just speak up and let me know that I need to speak up or I need to move my microphone or what have you. So I'm Seth Fletcher. I'm the programs manager at the Council on Drug Abuse. The Council on Drug Abuse is a small charity we're a national charity. We're located in Toronto, Ontario. We were founded by Murray Koffler from Shoppers Drug Mart back in the late 60s. He was actually on his way to the first Shoppers Drug Mart trade convention or trade show, and on his travel there, he on the radio, Robert Kennedy had been shot. An announcement came on the radio. So I guess the preliminary reports had suggested that Senator Kennedy had been shot by a drug-crazed youth. And at which point that kind of really resonated with Murray and his influence that he has in the pharmaceutical business. So he decided to use that influence and to start the Council on Drug Abuse to talk to youth and to just promote drug education and drug knowledge so that they can make healthy decisions. So that was over 40 years ago, and here we still are. So I guess my presentation is up there now.
Yeah, and you should be able to advance the slides with the arrows on top there.
Yep, sure, got that. Okay, so there we are. So that was the headline of the newspaper with Senator Kennedy. So it turns out that Senator Kennedy was not shot by a drug-crazed youth, as the preliminary report suggested, but it still didn't deter Mr. Koffler in his determination to use his influence in regards to youth substance abuse. So we have three main programs here at the Council on Drug Abuse, and we use basically the same approach in delivery methods and the same approach in terms of interacting with youth and promoting youth engagement and youth empowerment. So the first of the three is the CODA Certified Education, or our CCE. And basically this is our training tool that we use for those people that go into the classrooms and deliver our ICE program, our in-class education program. So what is CODA Certified Education, our CCE? So the CCE training program provides professional development education, training and certification in youth substance abuse prevention. Successful completion of this multi-module program is mandatory for all CODA educators. So basically the CCE is an online program that you register for, and it's 22 modules in length, and it provides all the factual information. Each module takes one specific drug of abuse, whether it be illicit or illicit, prescription over the counter, and it really breaks down that entire drug and discusses all the pharmacology, the short and long-term effects, the withdrawal symptoms, et cetera, et cetera. And the people that take this program are educators, are health promoters with various academic backgrounds, and they share a passion and dedication to prevent drug abuse through education. So this online 22-module program that we have is actually accredited by the Canadian Council on Continuing Education in Pharmacy, CEEP. So it's particularly attractive to pharmacists because this program is recognized and it allows them to obtain 10 continuing education units towards keeping their license valid. So we have a lot of pharmacists that take this program, and conversely, we have a lot of pharmacists that go further and end up delivering our program into schools. Our program is also certified by the Canadian Addiction Counselor Certification Federation, the CACCF, and it's the first program of its kind to receive the certification. And it can be used, its hours doing this course can be used towards getting their different specialist designations within the CACCF. So again, back to the CCE program. So it's online. The first two modules, Module 1 gives a background history of CODA, our history, our goals and objectives towards preventing substance abuse amongst youth. And Module 2, Youth and Drugs, explains more about the reasons that youth use drugs and offers healthy alternatives to drug use. So it really talks a lot about the culture of the youth's world and just some of the different risk factors that they face. Modules 2 to 21 walks the potential educator through the major drugs of abuse, both illegal and legal. So I discussed that a little earlier. Again, it's a very comprehensive and it looks at each drug in depth with all of the pharmacological aspects, short, long-term effects, perceived benefits. You know, a lot of times youth, when you're telling them about all of these terrible things about drugs and what they do to you, you know, the first instinct or reaction could be, well, you know, with all this information, why do people do it? So we offer the perceived benefits. This is why, you know, person X may use this substance. We talk about how they're manufactured and their legal status, etc. So of those two modules, 2 to 21, here's just an example. We have a module on cannabis, inhalants, LSD, psilocybin, methamphetamines. And this list obviously isn't exhaustive of what's on our program, but it's continuously evolving. Especially when you're working in different parts of the country, there are different, you get to see the different climates of drug use, the different each community is a little bit different. So for example, in inhalants, while it may not be prevalent in one part of the country or one particular community, it certainly is in a different one. So we make sure that we're inclusive in that we examine all different areas, all different cultures, and all different parts of the geography of the country to make sure that we're getting all the information that we need to out there. Module 22, so the last module of the CCE program is dedicated to train our educators on youth engagement. So this module covers the difference between engagement, tokenism, and platitudes, in that we don't want our youth to feel like they're just symbolic in terms of their opinions and their knowledge and their decisions. So we really it's an authentic engagement that we promote. And we identify the 8 principles of the youth engagement as defined by the Social Planning Council of Winnipeg. Just quickly, so that's respect, listen, engage, defer, support, respond, commit, and empower. So we use that as the blueprint for all our programs. So after this CCE, the online phase, we have the interactive training day, which is a one-day workshop where all the educators who have graduated our CCE program, they took all the modules, they wrote the exam, they achieved 75% or higher, and they're invited to this workshop where we have a full day of interactive training seminars, workshops, and discussion groups where we talk about nothing but active learning, youth engagement, and CODA program delivery methods. So this crossroads here, that's an example of our active learning approach that we take to our programs. So Crossroads is a series of videos that CODA produced a couple years ago that takes a bunch of youth and it offers testimonials from youth across the country who have had a battle with addictions and substance abuse, and it chronicles their stories. And their continued recovery. So this video series really actually has a lot of, the students really respond to it because it really illustrates how easily people who are in situations similar to theirs and communities similar to theirs with similar lifestyles, how quickly and how easily substance abuse can take hold of someone's life. So we have some programs that don't have the Crossroads video in it, and a lot of times the feedback that we get is like, we were really looking forward to another one of those movies. So we've had really good feedback with that. So the advanced module. So again, I guess going back to the active learning styles. So in this interactive training day, we do talk about, so the videos, they cater to a certain audience that really enjoys that kind of learning, but we also have different activities. For example, we have one that's called the Triangle of Decision, where during one of our marijuana deliveries, the program concerning marijuana, we'll put a question to the class that says, marijuana is safe because it's organic, and then there's 3 different corners of the room. One says, I agree with that statement, one is, I don't agree, and the third one is, I'm not sure. And so the youth, they'll actually get up from their seats and they'll go to the corresponding corner that reflects their opinion. And then we have a healthy discussion where, it'd be like, why do you think that, why are you standing in that particular corner? And they will offer their opinion. And it's a really good dialogue that the classroom has, and sometimes you'll see students actually changing positions during the discussion, which is just it's interesting to see because you're watching those critical thinking skills kind of taking place. So that's another way that we promote those discussions. And again, we present them as discussions and opinions, and we're not there to say their opinion is right or wrong, but we hope that we give enough factual information that they're making good and healthy decisions for themselves. So scoot over to the advanced module. So after this interactive training day, our graduated CCEs, they get the advanced modules, which is working across cultures and cross-cultural counseling, cultural safety, working with Aboriginal youth, working with Aboriginal youth with the Inuit perspective, Aboriginal peoples and addictions, and Aboriginal peoples and addictions with an Inuit perspective. So because we're a national organization and we do work across the country, we have to be very cognizant of different cultures, and we like to think that we've done that by implementing this program for our CCEs. So the second product that we have, the first being the CCE, the second is ICE, which is in-class education. So this is actually a program that our CCEs go into the classrooms in grades 7, 8, and 9 and deliver the drug prevention program to deliver to the youth. So how does it work? So CODA makes 3 separate visits per grade per year into the classroom for grades 7, 8, and 9. So 3 visits in grade 7, 3 in 8, and 3 in 9, each individual evenly spaced throughout the school year, and each one has a different focus. Our first visit is Drugs in My World, and its aim is to heighten the awareness of drugs and how they interact with the youth's world. The second visit, Drugs in Me, which offers drug-specific information regarding the interplay between drugs, the brain, and the body, so a lot of pharmacology. And Drugs in My Strength, which focuses on skills building, increasing the protective factors of youth, and building their capacity to make healthy choices. So, our delivery methods. which we discuss in our interactive training from the CCE, but it's to use an active learning approach to engage the students. So I told you about the Crossroads videos that we use. We have the activities. We also use worksheets. We have PowerPoint presentations that we use to illustrate and to convey a lot of the factual information about different substances of abuse. And we talk about setting a tolerant atmosphere. So our program isn't one of those programs that you would deliver, say, in the auditorium or a gym of a school. It's delivered in a classroom setting. So always between 20 to 25 students on average, sometimes up to 30, but definitely no more. And the reason that we do that is so that we can promote and encourage that discussion. Because we really want to come into the classroom not with an authoritative aspect where we're going to just tell them information. We want to have a discussion about things. So that's what we consider a tolerant atmosphere. And in this discussion, we talk about ways that everybody in that classroom, if they have something that they want to say, we want to make sure that they feel comfortable to say it. And so we have that discussion at the beginning of each delivery, that everybody in there probably has something really important to say, and if they want to speak in the classroom and generate a discussion, then they're more than encouraged to do so. We never ask students about their personal life, potential drug use, or situation, so there's an element of confidentiality that we always maintain and respect. And we encourage the students to help set the ground rules for the session to ensure the rules are more effective. So it's just the way that we approach the classroom setting, in that we don't go in there and say, if somebody wants to speak, make sure you put up your hand or do this. We don't set those rules. We say, what are some ways that if everybody wants to speak and we all have something to say, what are some ways some tactics and techniques that we can use to make sure that everybody is heard? And then the students will think, and we'll have discussion, and it always comes back to make sure you put your hand up. But it's much different, and the resonance is so much higher when that information is coming from them rather than us telling them. So here's actually a slide from our PowerPoint presentation of our ICE program at the beginning. So we have that discussion of creating a safe environment for open discussion and activity. And the group agreement is, we'll actually get a student will stand up and go to the front and write down what the group decides is a good way for us to, over the next course of the session, to make sure that there's that healthy dialogue and everybody gets a chance to speak. And privacy. So we talk a lot about privacy at the beginning of our sessions too. Not to share their own or anyone else's personal, private, or confidential information. So we talk about depersonalizing techniques, third-party stories, and the fictitious people. So at the beginning of each classroom, we say that you may have some life experiences that, for example, maybe your neighbor, maybe your neighbor is using a substance or perhaps being intoxicated while caring for young children, or you have some degree of worry about a situation like that. But we don't want to disrespect anybody's confidentiality. So while that story could be very pertinent to the discussion we're having in class today, what we're going to do is we're going to use just fictitious people. So instead of saying my neighbor, which, because this community, you all live in the same community, most people probably know where you live and who your neighbor is. So to avoid that situation, we ask the classroom to, let's come up with a female name and a male name, and we write those on the board or on a flip chart, and then we make every single story about either one of those two names. So whether it be Joey, Joanne, or Reginald and Gertie, for example. You could say, I know a person named Reginald who I fear is intoxicated while in the care of the children, and I worry for those children's safety. It's another way that we can have those important conversations and answer a lot of those, talk to a lot of those situations for the youth without breaching anyone's confidentiality. So the objectives of year one, so in the grade 7 program, and I put these slides here, and I guess you all have them saved that you can review. But I'll just go through them quickly. So Drugs in My World is to reduce the risk factors by increasing the knowledge of particular drugs. Grade 7 is more of a general base. It's their, and then a lot of times it's the first foray into drug prevention education. A lot of times the first time they've discussed particular drugs. So it's sort of just more of an all-encompassing view of that. So we explore the myths and misperceptions of drug use, which is very important. Actually, our first activity in the grade 7 program is called the graffiti wall, where we post flip chart papers all across the room with questions such as, what is substance abuse? Who are the kinds of people that abuse substances? And so on and so forth. And the students are encouraged to go around the room and just fill them out. And it's incredible just to see what the attitudes and the prevailing opinions of a lot of these questions are at grade 7, and then conversely through the education program of substance abuse, just to see how those myths and misperceptions, you see them applying the critical thinking and challenging a lot of those earlier myths and misperceptions. Here's an example from one of the slides. So I was talking about the active learning styles in the PowerPoint presentation. So this is from our grade 7 program when we discuss stimulants, just giving them facts. The stimulants are substances that create alertness by speeding up brain activity and heart rate. So we just give them facts, and we try to do so in a visual, appealing, just to make it. I mean, these are youth that we're delivering the information, so we have to be very cognizant of a lot of those different aspects. Here are the objectives of Year 2. So Year 2 has a marijuana focus. So we examine a lot of pop culture, teenage lifestyles, again, reducing the risks and increasing knowledge. Explore influences that the media. We talk a lot about the media in this program. And critical thinking. For example, getting information about not only drugs, but anything. If you go to one website, you can't assume that that's the actual be-all and end-all. We really encourage them to go to several sources and compare all the information, and then come up with an idea or an answer that really works and satisfies them. Scoot along here, grade 9 program. So our grade 9 program is the topic of our grade 9 program, to consoling with the trends in the neighborhood and what the students have identified as of concern in surveys that have been handed out pre-visit. So the Council on Drug Abuse, we have what we call a CAB survey, which is an acronym for knowledge, attitudes, and behavior. And we give that survey to the youth at the beginning of grade 7, before any drug prevention education. And then at the end of the school year, after they've had their 3 visits. Again, we deliver and administer that same survey at the beginning of grade 8 and at the end of grade 8. And then by the time they get to grade 9, we have our finger on the pulse, as it were, as to what those trends, substance abuse trends in the neighborhood are. That way we can really tailor the program to that specific community, rather than just having a very generic program for the entire country. So, for example, while cocaine may be a prevalent issue in some parts of Toronto in schools, it may not necessarily be that in Iqaluit, up in Nunavut. So we're very cognizant of that, and this CAB survey really helps us, and it empowers the youth in a way to determine their own product delivery. Here are some of the objectives of Year 3. Define the categories and difference between drug use. So we talk about drug misuse, use, and abuse, what the differences are. Talk a lot of different ways to alleviate stress. So we get into a lot of those soft skills, critical thinking, alternatives to drugs, things like that. Just looking inside and recognizing what each individual's strengths and weaknesses are as it pertains to making choices and healthy choices for themselves. So the third component of our products is the YACRS, which is a youth advisory council that we have in each high school that we deliver our ICE program to. And we look at the YACRS as a sustaining piece to ICE. So while an educator has been delivering our drug prevention program to them since grade 7, again in grade 8 and grade 9, when they've graduated grade 9, they've had 3 years of drug prevention education, and we encourage them to then become part of the YAC, which is Youth Advisory Council, a group of students in their high school who have a shared passion to reduce and prevent substance use. So this is, again, like I said, the sustaining piece, where they can get together and promote, with all the information that they've learned, to their school, to their community, and take charge, become leaders within their high school to encourage substance abuse prevention. So some of what the YAC members do, they actively participate in their YAC activities, which they meet every month. They're invited to attend the annual YAC conference, which is a one-day conference that we host here in Toronto. And depending on the home location and whether or not they need to stay overnight, this could be subsidized. So this is sort of a way that we can encourage more of a national base and bring all of our different high schools across the country together and advise code on issues of drug abuse prevention and as they relate to their school and their region. So here's just a bit of a graphic on the Ontario YAC structure, which really is the national YAC structure, which we start off with your school, which has your YAC members who meet every month with their CCE, and it's led by a school ambassador. There's one per school. And then there's a regional YAC. So the entire country has been divided into 104 different regions. And those regional YAC members, the ambassadors from each school, they get together and they have meetings and they talk about you know, what things are going on in their community, what are some great ideas and great suggestions and different strategies to promote drug prevention within their schools and communities. And then that regional YAC, they will vote for an ambassador who will attend the provincial YAC, and we do this in each country that we deliver our programs in. And then what's left is we have a comprised national YAC led by a national chair, elected by national YAC ambassadors. So it's a way to really connect youth from all across the country with this common thread of drug prevention and drug prevention education. And of course the benefits to the students. So like I said, these YACs are driven by the students. The CCE is there as a facilitator and as a facilitator only. And what their job is to do is just to sit there and just make sure that they're supported with a lot of the endeavors that they want to do. We've had schools that in their decisions to promote drug prevention education in their schools, they've done things like they've hosted an art gala where they've had students have tried to encapsulate what substance abuse looks like to them. So it was very abstract and artistic, but quite a wonderful thing that the students, and they planned it all on their own and together, and the entire high school got to go through and witness it. It's very amazing when you step back and you challenge the youth to come up with something. When you challenge the youth to come up with something and you see what they're capable of. So again, these were just some of the benefits of the students, and these go without saying. So leadership, event planning, communication, presentation organization, representative skills, fundraising, mentoring, etc. So that's it for those three pieces of our program and the CODA approach. I don't know if there's any questions.
Thank you, Seth, and thank you to the two previous presenters. I think we provided a really good overview of three things that are three big ideas that need to be the foundation for drug education programs. And I'll just go back to front. The knowledge piece that Seth identified, and I hadn't realized this, but the delivery of factual knowledge about drugs through pharmacists is going to be a very credible messenger. And so if a lot of your educators are trained, are pharmacists, it's going to have a lot of credibility with the students and with the teachers. And so I think the factual knowledge is a very important piece. The skills that Keith mentioned, the life skills program, the skill development, is again a very important piece, and it's well recognized in the literature and in Bob Van's program. I think as well, that one of the things that came away for me was the time required to develop skills. It's a challenge for educators to fit it into a curriculum. And then Bill's presentation looked at beliefs, and normative beliefs, as being a really key factor for young people to learn about and to learn and to understand. Those three important ideas form in some ways, foundations for instructional programs. I realize that we're running a bit over time, so I'm going to try to convey, to pose just one question to our panel members, and then invite people to join the second session, which is also going to be talking about instruction, and also note that Dan Reese, who was scheduled to be on the session, I've been emailing him back and forth. He's had difficulty getting online, and I apologize for that. Dan has been a presenter and a participant in several of these sessions, so we didn't do a field test for him getting online, and there's been a glitch. So we'll invite Dan back to that second session. So we'll have a continuation of this discussion about instruction. And so Dan's presentation was more about process and about pedagogy. So I think it's going to be a nice fit. But coming back to our three presenters and asking, and just pose one question in terms of a challenge, and it really came out of Keith's remarks about one of the comments that teachers made was the time available to fit it into the curriculum and to have available, and to persuade teachers to pick this up and to carry it forward. So thoughts on that, maybe starting with Bill, if you had one thought about how we persuade teachers to take the time and how we help them overcome that challenge of time, and perhaps also their own beliefs about drugs. So how do we persuade teachers to take this up as best we can? And then we'll go to Keith and then back to Seth. Bill?
Okay, well, our experience in the United States, that's where All Stars is primarily delivered in the United States, has been that it's not the decision to adopt a prevention program is typically not centered in the teacher. It's usually centered in both a school district and in a principal. And so once we get a principal and a school district involved, then the teacher's involvement is usually relatively straightforward. We had an experience recently in I believe it was in Vermont, where the teachers were interested in the program, but they challenged the principal and basically said, we've had a lot of programs come and go, and so if the administration isn't dedicated to this, then we just really don't want to even start it. And what happened was that the principal came in, got trained, and became a strong advocate for the program, and so it became institutionalized, which I think is a major goal that needs to be thought about.
Thank you, Bill. Keith?
Yeah, for us, I think it was linking the program that was being suggested back to the curriculum and telling teachers that if you do this, you are still achieving your outcomes that you need to cover in the course of the year. So it's not, it works in conjunction with your curriculum.
Okay, thanks, Keith. And Seth, comments about how working with teachers. I know you have a classroom educator delivering.
Yep.
But go ahead, please.
Yeah, so the teacher, what we've done in terms of the teacher is we've tried to make the program as seamless as we can in respecting that, a lot of times they're losing 60 minutes of curriculum time for them. So, but we try to make it as seamless as possible in that any of the surveys or, the setup of equipment or any of the follow-up endeavors, they don't have to worry about. Like we make sure that we take care of those beforehand, just to make that as seamless as possible. In that way, we can ensure that when we do, sequester feedback from our teachers, that they're going to say, this was a very beneficial program, and there wasn't any sort of hinges to them or their day-to-day jobs. Another thing, just to talk about what Bill was talking about earlier. Most times, if you can champion somebody, the principal in a school on the program, usually the teachers you don't have much difficulty in terms of feedback. But a lot of the times, you just need to champion somebody within the school that can kind of promote your program and dictate its worth, whether it be at the district school level, school board level, the principal, or the teachers.
Okay, thanks very much. And to our three panel members, as I say, we'll we'll pick up on these three big ideas, the basis for instructional programs, and each of the presenters, I think, was able to provide the context of how those three aspects are delivered through their description of their programs. And so they're not only delivering one of those elements, but they're delivering a couple of those elements in their programs. And particularly so the three different approaches are very, very helpful. For those of you online, I should have mentioned this in the beginning, but there is a way of thanking our presenters. And if you look under your name on about the middle of the left-hand side of the page, there's a little smiley face. And if you click on that icon, you'll see there's a little button with a pause button. And so I'd ask you to join me in thanking our three panel members for a great overview, not only of the three big ideas we're talking, but also of their programs. I think we've really set the stage for the next session, which will look at more process of both the pedagogy and the process of sustainability and implementation and ongoing institutionalization, as Bill has said. So to our three speakers, thank you very much for a great introductory session and a great overview of the fine work that you've all been engaged in. So thank you again. And to our participants, thank you for joining us in the live session. As I say, I'll be watching the others the slides from these three presentations will be up on our in our archives page shortly. And also this recording will be available. And as I said, we find that all of the participants in the next couple of days will be able to join us. And the last thing I'd just remind people as we go is to look at the three or four summaries that we've developed in a Wikipedia format. If you can go to the description of the webinar and take a look at those. Draw your attention in particular to our lesson plan database, which is another part of the national project that CODA and our associations have been involved in. And and what we tried to do there, it's several hundred lesson plans and full programs such as those talked about today that have been cataloged by learning outcome. And one of the challenges in delivery of instructional programs is to always have fresh material for teachers, and so that's the goal of that, is to have those available. So I remind you to take a look at those four items using the web links and make your comments or add your thoughts either within the text of the documents or as comments. So again, thank you for participating. So looking forward to our next session, which will be noted in a reminder email. And again, many thanks to our three presenters for their excellent work today. Thanks again. If people could exit the session by going under File and choosing to exit, that would be great.